Radio Canada International on the air with a program of particular interest to Canadians abroad. The World at 6 and As It Happens from the National Domestic Network of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation are transmitted to Europe on 6170 kilohertz, 7230, 11960, and 15325 kilohertz from 22 to 22:59 hours Coordinated Universal Time, Monday to Friday. The World at 6 and As It Happens, news and public affairs from Canada.
The World at 6.
Good evening from the National Newsroom of CBC Radio. This is Bob Oxley.
And I'm Russ Germain. In the news tonight, there's colorful language in the Commons as John Crosbie defends his two sons.
Also in the news, the Conservative minority government in Ontario makes some astonishing promises, none of which is likely to keep it in power.
Premier Levesque stays away from question period after yesterday's Liberal by-election sweep.
And the press and the military, can they get along on the battlefield? Now, Russ, to our top story.
It was one of the most extraordinary performances ever seen in the House of Commons. An enraged John Crosbie, Federal Minister of Justice, going after the opposition on the question of his two sons doing legal work for the government. To vote against the Tories in the next election.
And the Federal Minister of Fisheries says accusations that some of his employees took bribes is a blot on Canada's reputation. After hours of meetings with his officials, John Fraser hasn't been able to get to the bottom of the matter.
That's it for Tuesday, June 4th.
The World at 6. From the National Newsroom of CBC Radio, this is Bob Oxley.
And I'm Russ Germain. Good night.
Good night.
The World at 6 and As It Happens from the National Domestic Network of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation are transmitted to Europe on 6170 kilohertz, 7230, 11960, and 15325 kilohertz from 22 to 22:59 hours Coordinated Universal Time, Monday to Friday. The World at 6 and As It Happens, news and public affairs from Canada.
From coast to coast on CBC Radio and around the world on shortwave, this is As It Happens.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Gray.
Good evening. I'm Chris Henry. Tonight,
Is being premier better the second time around?
Robert Bourassa is dying to find out, but the PQ brass warns us not to give him up for dead yet.
Dismantling Britain's welfare state. Is the Iron Lady turning back the clock?
Fishing for trouble in the bureaucracy. Fisheries Minister John Fraser searches out charges of corruption.
Who all's been telling American secrets to the Soviets?
Spying may have been a soft touch in the U.S. Navy.
Private lives causes a public slap. The Actors Union has shut down the Vancouver Playhouse for casting a Brit.
As It Happens, the Tuesday edition. Radio, where the show always goes on. Quebec Liberal leader Robert Bourassa and his supporters were exuberant today. Their sweeping victory in 4 provincial by-elections last night leaves the Parti Québécois with the narrowest of margins in the National Assembly, and Premier René Lévesque with some hard decisions to make about his future.